Hello, and welcome to this episode of Open Space Radio. I'm Court Jones. If you've been following NRPA on social media, you may already be familiar with my guest today via some very fun, informational, and engaging Instagram reels that have been gracing your feeds for the last few months. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by my colleague and the amazing person behind all of NRPA's social media content, Christina High. Christina joined the team as our marketing coordinator in 2022, and she has been doing some really amazing work ever since when it comes to rethinking our social media strategy, what kind of social content we're producing, and continuing to build an engaged social media community. Recognizing the power that social media has nowadays and how there are many ways that park and recreation agencies and professionals can be using social media to their advantage, I'm really excited for our listeners to get some of Christina's insight today. So, Christina, I know you've already talked with me enough this week, but thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Cord. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely excited for this conversation. So just to start us off, can you share a little bit about who you are and what your role as the marketing coordinator at NRPA entails?
Sure, yeah. So I run our Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and a little bit on our YouTube. And that entails, designing the posts, filming content, capturing photos, writing captions, keeping up with the community, managing metrics. So going through all of that and seeing where we can tweak things, keeping up with trends. And then I also recently have started sending out scripts to staff. So we should get some new faces on our Instagram and Facebook soon. But kind of the whole gimlet of social media management is what I do.
Amazing. Well, you're doing an awesome job, and it's been really fun seeing the transformation of NRPA's social media. I think it's been, a really good illustration of the power of investing in your social media strategy and the person who's running your social media. And so we appreciate you here and all the awesome work that you've been doing. So before we get into some things that park and recreation agencies can do to step up their social media game, what are some of the things that you've been focused on currently as part of NRPA's social media strategy?
Yeah, so I feel like social media in general is really just about building a really great community and keeping up with trends, producing content. So I'm sure a lot of you, if you follow us on social media, have seen we've been posting more videos, a lot more front-facing. I'm on the camera talking to you guys about our resources, about our programs, about the impact Parks and Rec has. So a lot of like membership-based things and resource-based things that are like promoting our resources and programs and such, but then also a lot of like advocacy and promoting parks and recreation as a whole and more like public facing. So kind of like pivoting so that it's a resource and a hub for not just park and recreation professionals, but for outdoorsmen and people who advocate for LGBTQ rights and people who advocate for conservation and climate change and the whole myriad of issues that park and recreation touches, nutrition programs and all of those things. I really want to build it out as kind of like a hub that people can go to for information on why parks and recreation is so important and essential. So I've been doing that through videos and through creating these like little carousels of like tidbits of information and really powerful hooks that will capture the attention of our audience and our community, but then also bring them into the caption, bring them into the website, and so that they keep looking and digging for the information and really getting into the nitty-gritty details of the power of parks and recreation. So yeah, that's, I guess.
Yeah, and that's something that I appreciate is that I think the content that you're producing, it's really like that first step in the life cycle of someone's learning or like education or awareness of the things that are happening in parks and recreation. And, you're directing people to find more resources and learn more and take action on certain things. And it's really that like holistic approach to the whole life cycle of advocacy or awareness about all of these issues. And I think it's been nice to see someone else's face on NRPA's social media besides my own also. So that's been great.
Yeah, it's also like super interesting because social media nowadays is like, sure, it's like a platform for community, but it's also like in some ways like an entertainment platform. So like as a membership association and a nonprofit, you have to like balance like the serious resources with also it's something that people go on to as kind of like a break from the day to day. While it also has some scary information about climate change and legislation and things, it's also just like you go on there and you see these funny videos. So it's finding the balance between entertainment and then also like productive resource distribution and things like that. But
Yeah, and that's something I also appreciate so much because, like, you know, you're talking about really important issues, but at the same time, at the same time, I guess I should say, it's parks and recreation and it's fun and it's something that people enjoy. And so to be able to like bridge those two things, it's definitely a balance, and it's really nice to see when that's done well. So why do you think that social media is such a valuable tool for park and recreation agencies to use in their awareness or education or marketing efforts for their programs and spaces?
well, billions of people use social media, so it's one of like the greatest ways to reach a wide audience. It's also free, so a lot of park and recreation agencies might not always have the funding they need in their marketing departments. So social media is a really great outlet to kind of get the word out about programs and resources and the good that your agency is doing. So it's just all around a really great resource to spread the word and also to connect with other agencies to see what people are doing across the country, across the world, what sort of programs they're doing to fight climate change, what sort of programs they're doing to support, everyone in their community through their programs and resources. So it's really just like an overall really great resource to use for not just promoting, but also like learning yourself through social media and, what everyone else is doing to communicate with people and connect. It's a really powerful tool.
Yeah, and that's a really great point because I think sometimes we think that social media is just about like putting out information and like just posting, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the conversation about like, it's not just, posting and then walking away from it. Like it's a really great place to collaborate and find ideas and inspiration and things like that. So It's much more than just putting out your own content. There's a lot to be learned and connections to be made, which is really cool. So for an agency that may not have invested in a social media plan or strategy or staff, or just getting started or thinking about getting started, what are some of the things to consider? It can be maybe a little overwhelming if it's like someone's first time starting an account on a platform. So what are some of those things that agencies should be thinking about?
Yeah, it's certainly overwhelming to put out content to the world and film videos of yourself and things like that. But I think the main thing is don't overthink it. Producing content doesn't have to be hard. Film short little videos at your events and take videos of yourself talking about a resource instead of posting like a wordy graphic. Just the information you were going to put on that graphic, just talk to your camera and say what you would have put on there, but they'll see your face. And the people of Instagram and Facebook and Twitter love that. They love that personal touch of seeing who's behind their Instagram or social media account and who's giving them the information. It's also helps with credibility and just it's really, really helps with connection. So don't stress about it. And then also post as often as possible. I know that's something we hear a lot and it's kind of scary, but consistency is really key. The algorithm will love you, blah, 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 blah. But really just like, grab photos of your park of like a pretty flower and post carousels, just create content, I guess, and do what you can. It's really overwhelming, but a lot of people are doing it. Everyone nowadays is outside and filming things and kind of just have to get over yourself. And it's hard, but practice in the mirror in the morning, talk to yourself while you brush your teeth and just get over yourself, build a little bit of confidence and get used to talking to the camera and taking photos of people. This also when you're taking photos of like groups and things, it's also really nice to like say, hey, is it okay if I take a photo? Because it's great to get faces on your social media platforms so people see the sense of community you're building through your photos and through your videos. Yeah. And it helps a lot when you ask like a parent or a kid if you can take a photo of them. That way they feel a little bit more comfortable around you and they're not like, who the heck is taking this photo of me, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. And that, yeah, the all powerful algorithm
Yes.
loves faces and videos and consistent posting. So that's definitely a helpful tip.
And a lot of times,
And
like these trends are like just like little audios that you can put over B-roll and like just like take a video at your park and throw the trending audio on it and it'll do well. And maybe throw in some text of the event that you're at or a resource that you're letting out or a program that's going to release soon. All of those things. It's just scroll through Instagram for like 10 minutes a day and see what's trending. And they also have this really great tab now if you go down on the professional dashboard where it shows you what's trending and like a really honed in kind of like platform for seeing just like trending audio and trending reels and templates and things. And the templates are really useful, but yeah, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. There are a lot of tools.
yeah, and that's the good thing about it. There's a lot of resources available and things that are kind of really just plug and play when coming to create some of that content. And I'm glad you brought up the piece about like kind of, I don't know if like getting over yourself, but like kind of like building that confidence about being in front of the camera. I know that's something that we had talked about when we were first talking about you starting to film these reels and things. You're like a little bit apprehensive about being in front of the camera. And now it feels like you've really like grown into this and like are a little bit more comfortable doing it. And so I think it's like a really powerful thing to just like hype yourself up and like just do it and see how it feels and continue to do it. So I appreciate sharing those, like stand in front of the mirror and hype yourself up tips. I think that's important.
That's a little trick.
So as far as an overall strategy, what are some of the trends you've been seeing as far as what type of content performs best on the various different platforms? Also kind of thinking about how there are different demographics on different platforms, different age groups. So what's your advice on that?
Well, video is trending everywhere. So just keep that in mind. But as for specific platforms, Twitter, like always, short form, keep it to text. And if you're going to post a photo or a video, make sure it's quality or it captures your community or a resource that you're putting out. Also really great for updates and for news, but keep a lot of those like really gushy photos, I feel like, a little bit more to Facebook. There's a lot of men on Twitter, so a lot of like informative pieces. Also, if you have someone in your agency that has like a funny bone, that is super popular right now. If you've seen the National Park Service Twitter, they are just always with the jokes. So if you have someone with a funny bone, put them on your Twitter. If you have someone that is really passionate about advocacy and is always connecting your programs and resources back to current issues in the news, let them on your Twitter every once in a while and have them kind of just like chat about how your resources and programs are fighting climate change or supporting LGBTQ rights or all of these things. And then for Facebook, most of the platforms see a little bit more men on them, but Facebook has a good amount of women. So it's always nice to post like a little cute photo of your community at like a program or post the reels and a lot of like more information. You can get a little bit more wordy on there. But again, with a lot of these platforms, you have to come in with a hook and you have to grab their attention, because if you're posting something that just kind of gets mushed in with all of the words and all of like the graphics and all of the things, no one's going to look at it. No one's going to take the time of day to like read the full caption and go to your website. So you really want to capture them with I always like to use like a question or a strong statement in the first like sentence of my caption. And then also with your graphics, keep the words out. I mean, you can use some words, but not too many words. And then make sure you're using like captivating photos and things. And then also really utilize Facebook groups. It's a really great way to build community and a really great way to support your programs. If you have an event coming up, post that on Facebook. Facebook events do really well. And then for Instagram, I feel like this one is like changing all of the time, and it is kind of a pain, but it's videos, it's producing content, keeping up with trends, and there are a lot of really great resources for keeping up with trends. If you follow, there are some accounts that will post just like trending audios every once in a while, and there are blogs that will post trending audios and trending memes and trending video clips and overlay people. If you see like Pedro Pascal, overlay him on one of your little videos of your parks and eating the sandwich or whatever. But yeah, just diversify your content and make sure that if you are reposting reels and things like that, you're going to switch up the captions and make sure that people are kind of getting a little bit new information so that they want to follow you across all platforms.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I've been secretly waiting for a Pedro Pascal post on NRPA's Instagram, so we'll see. But no, that's really helpful. You know, I think sometimes there's a misconception that like one type of content will work for all of the different platforms. Right. And so it's really important to be intentional about what kind of content you're putting out on each different platform because of the various audiences and different algorithm needs and all of that. So that's really helpful.
Right. And again, if you don't have time to differentiate your content, some content is better than no content. So if you're posting the same thing across platforms, that's better than posting nothing. And you might get different people on each platform anyway, but yeah, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, great point. So, you know, as equity and inclusion is a priority of NRPA's, you know, when thinking about inclusion and accessibility, are there any tips for ensuring that the things we're posting on social media are inclusive for those with, you know, vision or hearing impairments?
Yeah, this is something that has popped up a lot in the last year or so. There are a lot of tools on all platforms for adding captions, adding image descriptions. If you're posting anything on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, there's typically a little box at the bottom that will say add alt text. And that's a great way to make sure that if people who have disabilities or accessibility issues are seeing your content, they can consume it just like a typical person can. And it makes your platform and your community so much more welcoming and inclusive. It's just a great way to make sure that everyone is able to see your content and engage with you. Also, if you're posting videos on your stories, make sure you add captions there. That's something that's forgotten a lot, but it's super easy to do. Just click the caption button and they'll generate it for you. And then also, a lot of times we'll see people using like special fonts and things, or like, and that does not translate well when you're using the voiceover. So that's something good to keep in mind if you're trying to like zhuzh up your social media and add fun fonts. It's a really great idea, but it doesn't work with accessibility tools. So try to avoid that. And then also if you're building graphics, make sure you're using contrasting colors for people who are colorblind or people who might not be able to see close colors very well. And then also make sure you're using large fonts because sometimes that's like super hard to see and it might not translate well when you're looking at it on your computer versus your phone. But make sure all of those things are popping up well and so that everyone can consume your information and you're building a welcoming and inclusive platform.
Amazing. Those are all really great tips. Because yeah, we want to make sure that everyone is able to experience the content we're putting out and all of the information. So that's really important. This is kind of coming back to something we were talking about a little bit earlier, but can you talk a little bit about the importance of engagement and building that community and how social media is really just more than that, just like post it and forget about it? What else goes into building an engaged community on social media?
Right. So like you said, don't post an image or a video and just forget about it. When people are commenting, people are liking, keep up with that, comment back, even just like their comment. That does so much. If people are tagging you in posts, comment back on it, share them on your stories. You really want to build that community and build that following you already have. Make sure they feel welcomed and make sure they feel nourished, because if they don't feel that, they're not going to want to continue to follow you. So you really have to keep up with these people who are following you and make sure that they are part of a community and are feeling not only like they're engaging with you, but you're engaging with them. And it's very reciprocal and it's not just a one-sided kind of thing. You really have to keep up with it. And especially with these reels and videos, because they continue to gain engagement over such a long period of time. Check back on them, show them to your stories after a few months and be like, remember this, or comment back and make sure that your community is really seeing that you're on there, and it's a place where if they're going to reach out to you, you're going to reach out back, and it's a place where, you know, it truly is a community and everyone is connected, and not just a place where information is being spewed out. There's no one behind it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it like builds that, I guess, FOMO a little bit. Like people want to be a part of a community when they see that there's that like engagement and back and forth and conversations happening. Like people want to be a part of that. And that's really helpful in growing that community.
Right. And then if one person comments and they see you comment back, someone else will see it and they're like, oh my gosh, this account actually like responds to people. Like I can talk to them now, or they feel so much more comfortable. It's like, you know, if you work in a restaurant and you have a tip jar, you put the first tip in and then more people will come, sort of thing. So also if you have followers that are in your staff group and they follow you, have them comment and start the conversation going, and just, yeah, make them feel welcomed.
Yeah, that was a really good analogy, the tip jar thing. I like that.
A restaurant background coming out.
Amazing. So, you know, thinking of creativity, I know that's a big pull to social media. Like you can get really creative. And there's so many ways to get creative on social media to stand out from the accounts that are just posting, you know, just statistics or just event details or just the kind of like concrete details of certain things. So how have you been doing that with NRPA's channels, and how can park and recreation agencies do something similar where they're, you know, finding new ways to tell their story?
Mm-hmm. A great way to do this is just to scroll through Instagram, find some inspiration, see what's trending, and then see how you can kind of adapt that to your content. And a lot of the ways, some really creative videos will come out of it. A lot of the programming and resources that these agencies put out are really, really great. And there's a lot of opportunity for building really engaging and beautiful videos and photos. It's just a matter of getting those together. Scrolling through Instagram is one of my little nifty tricks. There are also a lot of blogs that you can look at, but also just go around in your park and take a little walk, see what you have and what your agency offers that is different from people you follow on Instagram. How can you differentiate yourself from other agencies? Not that we're trying to compete with each other, because we're all a lovely community, but how can you make yourself stand out compared to all of these other agencies that are putting out very similar things? If you have a really strong conservation or sustainability strategy, emphasize that. A lot of these platforms are also advocacy platforms nowadays. So if you're putting out things like that, people want to hear about it. Talk to the camera. People love seeing faces, like I said. That's a really great way to differentiate yourself, because you cannot have the same face on a different platform. You are unique yourself. So put that out there. Use that. And yeah, just really dig into your resources and your programs and elevate what is unique to your agency.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good way to build that like community trust too, where if members of your community are following you and they're seeing someone's face from an agency staff that they're going to be interacting with, like that already kind of initiates that connection and trust. So that's a really good point. Thinking about some really exciting campaigns that we have coming up, like Family Health and Fitness Day coming up on June 10th. And we have Park and Recreation Month all throughout July. I know sometimes when it comes to participating in events like this, there's a little bit of like, what do I post? What should we talk about? How, like, what are the details of these campaigns? So, any tips for that as far as like using toolkits that NRPA produces?
Yeah, so we have some really great resources, some great hashtags that you can really connect with the community, some drafted posts. So if you're struggling with captions or graphics, and you can obviously tweak them to become your own and make them unique, like we were just saying, it's a really great resource and a really great way to kind of like build a base and start your posts for that month and for that day. So really check out those resources. They're really cool.
Sweet. Well, we'll link those with this episode. as well. And something that I know we also want to touch on, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So, this episode is out right at the very beginning. And we know that social media, there are a lot of powerful benefits, but we know that it does have negative impact on mental health. So can we talk a little bit about that and maybe some tips for maybe how to use the power of social media without getting to a point where it's becoming negative to your mental health?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it really helps if you kind of schedule out your social media time, and then get those 10 minutes, do your post, but then leave it for a little bit. Go on a walk, take a break, and then come back to it after like an hour or two. It is super detrimental on mental health. Being on your phone all of the time, on your computer all of the time, staring at a screen. It also really blocks creativity. Get out into your local parks and take a little walk. It really helps get the creative juices flowing, the ideas flowing. You're seeing these things that you might have not noticed before in your parks, a really beautiful flower or a lovely garden that you want to take a photo of. And then you have all of these ideas. And yeah, spending too much time on social media, it's a really great resource, but you really have to only consume so much of it because it can just really, really get to the brain. And especially with all of these really scary news stories coming out that we can see on social media, it is really detrimental on your mental health. And the really lovely part about working in Parks and Recreation is that it's such like a positive side of all of these negative news stories. So we're doing so much to combat climate change and all of these negative legislation things that are trying to be passed. So it's in some ways really positive and really like heartwarming and beautiful to see all of the work that Park and Recreation is doing. But again, staring at your phone is just not good, and comparing yourself, and maybe you posted a reel that's not doing as well as another agency, or you're beating yourself up for not being as good of an advocate as you want to be. But we can only do so much. There's only so much time in a day. Don't spend your whole day on your phone. Go take a walk. Really, truly get outside. I really hope if you're seeing one of my videos or one of my posts, it really prompts you to go outside and not just spend your whole day on your phone. Just take it in little bits.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I think taking those breaks is so important. It's so easy to get sucked into it.
Yeah, the doom scroll.
Doom scrolling, and then the when you put out a piece of content, just being like glued to the performance and like coming back to it. There's definitely a balance. And so I appreciate you sharing that. And the reels that you're making, every time I see one, I'm inspired to go outside. And usually we'll just like walk out into my backyard. I'm like, there's Christina frolicking again in the park. I need to get outside. Yeah, I know. I've yet to roll down a hill. If you haven't seen that reel, I would encourage you to go check it out. Christina, on a personal level, what about the social media world and managing NRPA's social media brings you joy or hope or excitement, or why do you love this? What's good about it for you?
I just touched on this a little bit, but there are so many scary corners of the internet where like the planet is dying and all of these scary things, and it's just like kind of an intimidating place to go onto. Even though sometimes there are these great funny videos. But the Park and Recreation side of it, I found, is such a lovely outlet of uplifting good resources and programs. I just saw today Miami Parks and Rec had a really great program that they posted about for Autism Awareness Month, and it really just like warmed my heart, and I was like, this is such an amazing field to be working in. I didn't know that I needed this field, but it's exactly the place that I want to be. It is such a beautiful place to see all of these agencies promoting such beautiful resources and programs. So it's really just like motivating, and it feels great to be able to work in this field and work with these amazing people and uplift their programs and support them. And so it's just a lovely little corner of the internet.
I agree so much. And I think I have a very similar feeling. Like I didn't know I needed a career in this field either. And I feel like that's a very similar sentiment to like the professionals working in the field too.
Right.
When I've had conversations with them, it's like, I either didn't know that this could be a career or didn't know how much I would love it and want to never leave a career in parks and recreation. And so I think that's such a powerful testament to the power of parks and recreation and what it's doing, not only for the communities, but the people that are working in this amazing profession as well. So I appreciate you sharing that. This has been a really wonderful conversation. I know we talk about social media a lot, but it's been great kind of hearing your insight from this side of things. And hopefully our listeners got a lot out of it and are ready to kind of rethink or reimagine their social media strategy. Is there anything else that you feel is important to share before we go? And if listeners aren't following NRPA currently, how can they find us on social and what kind of things can they expect to find?
Yeah, please follow us on social media. We're at NRPA on Instagram, National Recreation Park Association on Facebook and LinkedIn, and then we're at NRPA News on Twitter. I would love to have you guys join us or join our community. Yeah, just remember to take breaks. Don't overthink it. Do your little talk into the mirror while you're brushing your teeth bit. And then also, we're going to be releasing this really great resource with this podcast, a photo release form template that you guys can use for your agency if you're having any events or programs that will make it really easy to capture content in a ethical and kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? In an ethical way. No stress. So you can take photos of kids and parents and people participating in your events and programs without worrying about legal issues or things like that, or building the form yourself. So you'll just throw in your agency name and that'll come out with this podcast. So that's really exciting. Yeah, just happy scrolling. Don't doom scroll.
I love that. I think we should add that as a sign off to every one of NRPA's reels now. Happy scrolling, don't doom scroll. Yeah. No, but that I'm really excited about that resource. I think it's going to be really helpful, because there are questions as far as like what kind of photos you can use. And, if someone's giving you permission to use their photo on social media while they're in your parks. So I think that'll be a really helpful resource. And I appreciate you being thoughtful about creating something like that. So this has been a really great conversation. I appreciate you spending some time with me today and excited for folks to hear this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Court. This has been great.